welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then welcome. My name is Maddie, and today I'll be talking about romance tropes that I can't stand. A few weeks ago I talked about romance tropes that I love, but we of course have to do the opposite and talk about romance tropes that I hate. Because as much as I love romance books, there are a lot of tropes in romance books that I just don't like, that are super cringy, that just grind my gears. And I know a lot of the tropes that I'm going to mention are problems other readers have with romances too, so I know I'm not alone in these, and I just want to let out my anger on how much I hate these tropes and just rant about them. So I've been really excited to make this video because of that. So why don't we just get started? The first two tropes I'm going to talk about are probably the most popular hated tropes among readers in romances, so I'm going to get those out of the way too. Let's just get the obvious ones out of the way first. Insta-love. I don't think anyone loves insta-love. And I think that's because insta-love is just so unrealistic. I, for one, have never looked at someone and by first glance have fallen in love with them. It's just so unrealistic. It so rarely happens. I do believe in insta-lust. Like, I believe that you can look at someone, see them for the first time, and feel a draw to them. You can feel an infatuation for them because, especially if they're attractive, you're gonna feel those feelings of like infatuation. So lust at first sight, I believe in. Love at first sight, I don't, because I believe that it takes a lot of time to fall in love with someone. Love doesn't happen just by looking at someone for the first time. It happens when you get to know someone, get to know what they're all about, and once you do fully get to know them in and out, that's when you start to fall in love with someone. And I think that's the case with a lot of people who experience love. So when we have a character, the main character, fall in love with the love interest upon first meeting them, it just is, for one, unrealistic and makes their love story so boring. Because what I love about romance books is watching the main character on their journey to falling in love. So when they fall in love with their love interest, by like page 5, what is there left to unfold with the story? There's just nothing, because the main point of the story has already been resolved and all that, because they're already in love. We don't get to see their journey in falling in love. So it just makes for a very boring romance story that I just don't like. So I've never liked insta-love. I don't know anyone who likes insta-love, but fortunately I have not come across a romance book with insta-love in a really long time. So I think authors are getting the point that no reader likes insta-love and they're just completely doing away with it, which I'm really happy about, because it's been a really long time since I've seen a book with insta-love. So we're making progress there. The second one is love triangles. So I like love triangles and I don't like love triangles. It kind of depends on the nature of the love triangle. I don't mind a love triangle when usually it's the girl. Usually it's a girl and two guys that I find with love triangles. Sometimes it can be the other way around. But usually I don't mind a love triangle when the girl genuinely can't decide between the two guys, and so she has to feel them out as the story progresses, and then at the end choose which guy she wants to be with between the two of them. I don't mind that, but some love triangles will do this, and this is what I don't like. It's when the girl is for sure certain that she is in love with this one guy, but she still strings the other guy along because she's too afraid to reject him. I hate that, because it's so disrespectful to the other guy to just string him along, make him believe that you're in love with him, and then at the end when the girl is ready to be fully committed to the other guy, then she drops him when she was never in love with him or saw anything in him in the first place. Like, why can't you just let the guy down to begin with? Because it's so disrespectful. It will hurt the other guy's feelings. It's just a really nasty, mean thing to do. So I don't like that kind of love triangle. But when we follow a girl who genuinely can't decide between the two guys, I don't mind that type of love triangle that much. The next one I'm going to talk about is romanticizing abuse. I hate this. I don't understand how abuse can be seen as romantic, and this happens so much. Every single book I've read that includes romanticization of abuse, I have hated so much. The top 2 books that I have read that include this are After by Anna Todd, which I harp on a lot because it's just so awful, and Beautiful Disaster, I think it's by Jamie McGuire. Those 2 books romanticize abuse so much, and it is disgusting. I hate it because these 2 books they are new adult, but of course there are still young readers who are going to read new adult. So I hate them because they teach young people that being abused is romantic, that verbal and physical abuse should be seen as romantic, that if a guy is abusing you, then you should stick with them because you should believe that they're not going to be that way again, even though they are. It is so problematic, and I hate it. I don't mind abuse in books when they serve a purpose, when the book is showing you deliberately that abuse is wrong, and they show the main character eventually breaking away from that abuse and the main character realizing that this is not okay. But what I don't like is when the protagonist is sticking it out with the guy because she believes she can change him, because that can never happen. So don't like abuse. When it's romanticized, I hate it, and I know a lot of people hate it too. I think this trope should just go away. It happens way too much that it is a problem. Next one is pet names. I'm not a fan of pet names. That's when the love interest will come up with a nickname for the protagonist, and it's usually very, very, very cringy. Like, I hate baby. I hate babe. I never want to be called babe. I hate the word babe so much, and oftentimes it's used in books, and I hate it. The book I'm reading right now, the love interest calls the main character Shortcake, and it's kind of annoying. I'm like, just say her name. Like, y'all, just say their names. Call them by their first name. Stop making up pet names because it's just so cringy. Like, I don't know why it's so hard to just call the protagonist by their first name. And I don't mind if they use their pet names sparingly, but when it's every single time they're talking to the protagonist and calling them by their pet name, within every sentence when they're talking to them, it is infuriating because it's just overboard, and I hate it. It's also very distracting and very unnecessary. This next one, I cannot believe how many books I see this in, and it is so annoying. It's when the main couple, the protagonist and her love interest, are, sexually active, but there is never any talk about contraception. And the reason I hate this is because later on in the book, the main character will find out that she is pregnant, and then she'll be like, oh, how did this happen? How do you think it happened? You are never using any protection. I don't understand. And it's so unrealistic because I feel like with most couples, the first thing that should be on your mind is contraception. If I were in the protagonist's place, that would be the first thing on my mind, which would be, how am I going to protect myself from getting pregnant? And then they act so surprised when they do get pregnant, and they're like, how did this happen? It just makes the main character seem so dumb. And I don't mind when this happens to, a character who's like 16 to 20, because not saying that young people are dumb, but young people don't have as much experience with sex and how to protect yourself from getting pregnant. So it's more unrealistic for a young person to be kind of naive about that. But when it's happening to someone who's in their 20s and 30s, that's when I'm like, okay, this is unrealistic. You should know better. And then another thing I don't like about this is when there is no contraception used, and yet the main character never gets pregnant. When they are having so much unprotected sex and they just magically don't get pregnant. I'm like, girl, you must be infertile as hell because you're just doing it a lot, and yet nothing's happening. I'm going to use Den of Vipers as an example of this again because that's one thing that bothered me in that book so much, is that the main character was having so much unprotected sex with multiple guys, and yet magically she never gets pregnant, and contraception is never talked about in that book, which was just bizarre. So I just assumed, I'm like, okay, I guess she's just infertile because she's having so much sex and yet not getting pregnant. So yeah, I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. Just mention contraception. I don't know why it's so hard. It takes a few sentences to get that talk out of the way, so that way things just make more sense. The next one, I don't like cocky love interests. I don't. And this always has to do with the male love interest. I don't come across many female characters who are cocky, but it's usually the males. I don't like alpha males. I don't like them in real life, and I don't like them in books. So whenever there's a cocky alpha male who thinks he's all that, who thinks he can get all the girls, and the love interest is attracted to that, I'm like, really, girl? That's not really attractive at all. There are so many other good, humble, and sweet guys out in the world that are so much more of a better fit than someone who is so full of himself. So why would you want to be with someone like that when you can have someone who is a lot more, you know, meek and sweeter? I don't understand it at all. This next one, I kind of touched on this one a little when I was talking about romanticization of abuse, but I'm going to point it out again. When the love interest feels the need to fix the guy, usually this is a girl who feels the need to fix the guy. I think it can be the other way around too, but the girl fixing the guy is a lot more common. You should never, in a relationship, take on the responsibility to fix your partner or the love interest. Never. That is never your responsibility. What the love interest needs to do is go to therapy. It is not on you to fix them. And I hate that I see this so often in books where the main character takes on the responsibility themselves to fix the guy because they believe that once they fix them, that's when the relationship will be flawless and beautiful and all their problems will be solved. No. Get that guy in therapy. It is a therapist's job to mentally help people. It is not on you, and you're not qualified to do that in the first place. So what the protagonist will do is they'll put up with the abuse, believing that they will eventually be able to fix the guy, and they'll just like wait it out, take on the abuse until they're able to fix them. What I wish protagonists would do is break it off with the guy and be like, I can't be with you until you get yourself together. And once they're able to mentally help themselves and get help, then you can be with them. I don't know why that is such a hard concept to grasp with main characters, because it also sets a very bad precedent that it is on the female to fix the guy when that is not the case. It is not on you to fix anyone, and it really sets up a very unhealthy relationship when one partner takes on the responsibility to mentally fix their partner. It's not healthy, and I hate that that's an example that is set in books. I hate it so much, and it needs to stop. This one was especially very common in like books back in the day, like early young adult books, and I hate it. It is when every guy is in love with the plain girl. This one, sadly unrealistic. Like, it can happen, but usually it doesn't, and it's kind of more like wish fulfillment for us very average girls, which I would call myself kind of moderately average, so I relate to that. But it's very unrealistic for such a plain girl with really no personality who is not conventionally attractive for so many guys to be attracted to her. And I see it so much. Like, one example I could think of, Twilight. Bella. There are so many guys who are attracted to her. For one, Edward is attracted to her, Jacob is attracted to her, but there are also quite a few guys who are in her classes who are attracted to her. And as we know, Bella is super boring. She has no personality. Like, she's kind of pretty, but she's not like drop dead gorgeous. So why are all these guys attracted to her? It never made any sense to me. And it's kind of just a slap in the face to us average girls to see a plain Jane character in a book be just fawned over by multiple guys. It's so annoying because I'm like, that doesn't happen. It's like, okay, if it's happening in so many books, why isn't it happening to me? Not that I want like a bunch of guys like fawning over me, because I don't like a lot of attention, but you know what I mean. Like, it's just unrealistic. This one I hate so much. This is probably the number one thing I hate in some romance books. I'm probably gonna get very, very ranty. It is the sexualization of virgins. I can't stand it. I cannot. Whenever I see this, it gets me so angry. And it's usually the guy sexualizing the girl who is a virgin. I cannot stand when the guy is turned on by the fact that the girl is a virgin. It is disgusting. And I don't feel like virginity should be something that is sexualized because, you know, being a virgin is a normal thing. Like, I don't understand why it's such a turn on for some guys when a girl is a virgin and like they're very obsessed with the idea of like taking her virginity. It's just very disgusting. It's very, very creepy, and I see it so much in books. Another thing I hate about attention that comes with a girl being a virgin is when the guy thinks that the girl is so sexually unexperienced because she is a virgin, when in reality that's not always true. Like, a person can still be a virgin but still like have sexual experience or be very aware of their sexuality even though they are a virgin. Like, it doesn't mean that a girl is just like so pure and innocent and just naive about anything that has to do with sex. That is not always true. So I really hate when the guy just like undermines a girl's sexual experience just because she's a virgin in real life. And I also hate it in books. It happens so much in books. I just don't want to see any attention brought on a girl because she is a virgin, whether that has to do with sexualizing her virginity or belittling her sexual experience because she is a virgin. Hate it. It needs to be done away with. I cannot stand it. It definitely is my most hated romance trope. I wouldn't really call it a trope, but like aspect in romance books. I hate it and I never want to see it again, and I'm so disappointed that I see it in so many books. This next one is the female constantly saying how hot the love interest is. When every other page they're just describing how handsome or hot the love interest is, it gets so annoying because I'm like, we get the idea. He is attractive. You don't have to describe it every time you run into him. We get the point. We only need one paragraph describing how hot the male love interest is, and that is it. That is all we need. You don't have to keep going on about it. Next one is the female hating on other girls for being attracted to her boyfriend or her love interest. I really hate girl hate. It's so often in books that we come across girls just hating each other, and I just don't understand why girls can't just get along. Why can't girls just be friends? And it's just really annoying when the love interest is hating on every single girl that comes into contact with their love interest and act like their male love interest can't be friends with other girls because the main character always jumps to conclusions that their boyfriend is attracted to this girl that he's friends with and has a problem with it, when that's not always the case. Like, guys can be friends with girls. Just let your love interest have relationships that are platonic with other girls. It also goes to show how much the protagonist does not trust her love interest, which is a problem, because if you trusted your love interest, you would not have a problem with them speaking to other girls or having like platonic relationships with them. It shouldn't be a problem. So you need to evaluate how much trust you have in your love interest if you're constantly worrying about him getting with other girls. The next one I hate is cheating. I hate cheating of any kind. I hate it. I hate it in real life. I hate it in books. I never want to see it in books. I don't mind cheating when, it does sound kind of mean, but I don't mind when the main character cheats on their boyfriend who is abusing them or super mean, because I'll always think that, you know, their past boyfriend or girlfriend deserves it. So I don't mind that when it comes to cheating. What I hate is when the protagonist cheats on someone who is so good to them, that did nothing wrong. I can't stand it. I'm going to bring up After again, because After did this. Tessa, the protagonist, cheats on her boyfriend with Hardin, who is such an abusive guy. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of romanticization of abuse in this book. He is super abusive. She cheats on her sweet boyfriend who never did anything wrong with an abusive guy, and I hate that, because her past boyfriend did nothing wrong. He did not deserve to be cheated on. And I hate this because when the protagonist cheats on their boyfriend, how are we supposed to like the protagonist? That is what I don't get in regards to cheating in books, because we're supposed to root for the protagonist, but how are we supposed to root for them when they're a cheater? It makes no sense. I'm automatically going to hate the protagonist if they cheat. So you've lost me there. Like, I don't care about the protagonists anymore. I hate them because they did something so just disgusting, which is cheating on their partner. So I'm not going to like them. So I really think cheating needs to be done away with. The last one I'm going to mention, finally we're on the last one. I know I mentioned a lot, but this one I recently added to this list because I just recently came across it in a book I read a few weeks ago, and I really hate it. It's the love cures all trope. This one, so unrealistic, so problematic, and this is something that has to do with also like mentally fixing someone, but it's a little more on the nose. It's the idea that if you fall in love, then all your mental problems just disappear because love is the cure-all for mental illness, and that is just not true. Yes, love and falling in love can help you cope with your mental illness because you have, you know, a lot of serotonin going on, and that of course helps with you mentally, but it is not a cure-all. You're still going to face mental problems while you're in love. That's just the reality of it. So when romance books use the trope of the love cures all, that when you're in love, then you're just mentally fixed, it's so infuriating because it's so unrealistic. And again, it's problematic because when young readers read about, a character falling in love and then they're mentally cured, they're going to believe that if they fall in love, then all their mental problems are going to go away, and that just is not true. What you need to do is seek help. Seek therapy, get on the right medications, and that'll help you better your mental health and cope with it. Love is not medicine. It can't do away with your mental illness. It's just not realistic, sadly. And that is it. All the romance tropes are aspects about romance books that I hate. Let me know if you agreed with any of these. I would really like to know so we can just rant about them together. And if I mentioned any tropes you love, of course, don't take it personally. We all have our opinions, but these are just mine. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more anime-related videos and book-related videos. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, those links will be in the description box, and I'll be back really soon. Bye!